In some lives, the spotlight is just the tip. Andrea Bocelli's is one. Them. A man who sings in darkness and touches millions with one song-sustained note, yet has a complicated, delicate private world. Tumultuous, but so lovely it seems unlikely. Behind that prayer-like tenor voice are two women who quietly sustained him through two parts of his life. Three children who redefined love and legacy, and a home nobody works in music, but everyone breathes it. Bocelli shines in antique churches, sold-out stadiums, and renowned concerts. Stages. However, few know that his true brilliance lies in the simplest. Moments. Family supper in Tuscany. Warm low piano chords played by his oldest kid at night. An 8-year-old girl stood shaking beside her father to sing Hallelujah live during a pandemic stream. Or silent letters to a past where a woman chose to leave without resenting her. Bocelli's private life is not shocking, scandalous, or shocking. Expect a tale of choices. Choosing forgiveness above hurt, peace above strife. Choosing kindness even when fame threatens mayhem. In the middle, his emotional existence was shaped by two people. One who ignited his first flame as a blind young man playing piano in pubs to make money. His tuition, and another who joined him after the spotlight grew harsh, returning him to a softness he believed was lost forever. Three children with distinct names originated from these two moms. Light shade. Amos, serene, sees the world through intellect and unusual quiet. Mateo, warm and passionate, Singsif seeking to win over a million-loved father. Virginia, the late but brilliant gift, whose innocence lights the home like only a child can. If Thief Bocelli's life is a journey from darkness to grandeur, then your narrative is too. The other half, entering, is rarely seen. Journey from greatness back to the hearth, from stage lights to family, the very brightness that has sustained him for 50 years. Sometimes Toto understand a legend. Don't gaze at his brightest point, but Athos behind him, who never shine, yet are what make the stage glow. The tale of two ladies, three generations, and Andrea Bocelli's signature light than any aria could. And if you're ready, his private door world opens. A world where love, family, and music merged, a radiant light that darkness cannot erase. Before Andrea Bocelli became famous, a 29-year-old blind man sitting there, he could shake the Milan Cathedral dome. Behind a small Pisa bar's outdated piano, performing music to pay for school, peacefully live by heart, not sight. In that humble location, among cigarette smoke spiraling toward the ceiling and talk of people unaware of fingers running over the keys, a 17-year-old girl halted, not out of interest, but because his words held her immobile, like an invisible power had reached out and anchored her. She was Enrica Cenzati. At that moment, without anyone noticing, Bocelli's purest and most beautiful love chapter began. Life. Though he couldn't see her, he felt her presence more strongly, any face he knew. He once mentioned, he sometimes sings and instantly recognizes who is listening. An eerie calm surrounds that person. So on that night, only Enria listened. She remembered something years later. His voice made her feel like she was viewing a stranger's souled, no glitz, celebrity, or spotlight. Just a wounded yet warm voice that could not resist staying around it. Their love unfolded, uniquely. Two unprotected souls understood. Few words, no drama confessions. Young girl entering adulthood and blind man carrying his insecurities met through sound. Unforced at kindness and understanding no sight could offer. 5 brief years of dating eventually, but not before they had to conquer many obstacles. Enrique, he trusted Andrea before himself. She boosted him. To quit law school, study classical singing with Franco Corelli, face he dreaded each choice. She worked part-time to fund his tuition. Observed every move he made in the dark. In other words, she provided him the sky an artist needs to reinvent himself. They married in a simple, peaceful ceremony in 1992. How they love. Enria didn't desire glamour. She desired a home filled with music and her chosen man. In that mansion, nestled in, 2 kids were born in Tuscany. Amos 1995, Mateo 1997. Enrique kept the family beat. Parenting, cooking, driving kids to school, teaching, waiting. Although Andrea started a job, one thought would take him around the world. But here the fissure started. As fame, Bocelli was invited to tour Europe, and the bar singer now stood at their door. Their life beat progressively slipped out of step before tens of thousands. Andrea was shy, introverted, and uncomfortable in crowds. Andrea, though not afraid of noise, was fated to be in the spotlight. She stayed home, raising two young children while bouncing between Rome, London, and New York. Sometimes, her supper for him cooled uncooked then discarded. No one was to blame. Life was simple. Crunchily meeting love. Through, not betrayal distance. Their 2002 silent divorce followed 10 years of marriage. No controversy, no accusations, no nasty interviews, no TV tears. Only two people who previously loved each other but realized they couldn't walk together the same route. Andrea left calmly. Bocelli still mentions her with affection. Rare reverence. As a woman who supported him during his worst years, which others could have abandoned. After her divorce, Enrica vanished nearly totally. No social media, interviews, remarriage, or red carpets. She resided a few minutes from Bocelli's home so their sons could visit him anytime. And one detail that inspires learners. Veronica and Bocelli married in 2014, and Andrea attended not for herself the ceremony, but for love, their children, and possibly the thing she chose from the start. Enrique would start Bocelli's life symphony.com, smooth movement with all the necessary notes for legends to emerge. She lighted the first flame and stepped in. Aside, letting that light shine. And possibly without her, Andrea Bocelli would not exist. In the early years after their wedding, Andrea Bocelli and Enrica Cinzotti lived simply, almost unbelievable for a legend maker. They resided in a Tuscany home with a sunny lawn, abundant grapevines, and living room. Two boys always laughed in the room. Bocelli practiced piano and did singing lessons in the morning. Bars at night, got home late, but always received a warm supper and gently hands. That environment spawned Amuse and Matteo. A tranquility that only two parents, no praise, pleasure without spotlight, nightly music in the house. However, Bocelli appeared on the San Remo stage in 1994 and became famous. Little by little, their life rhythm changed. Two tunes at once perfectly aligned, now changing tempos. With Henry introverted and sensitive, I always preferred the back row. Camera avoidance, crowd avoidance, attention avoidance. Bocelli, who didn't want popularity, had to follow music. Led him. Grand theaters, stadiums, red carpets, interviews, connecting planes. These two worlds first moved together, but now they're apart. Expanded like a mistimed breath. Sometimes Andrea sat alone at night. A silent kitchen, the children asleep, the dinner she saved for her husband chilling until it lost all its flavor. Bocelli faced thousands in another city that he sang harder and longer to block out his homesickness, to satisfy his hidden void. Many think pressure comes from what we lack. However, pressure came from their past. Pure bliss is too delicate to withstand gaining fame. Bocelli struggled to understand success's rapidity. From modest bar performances, he suddenly toured Europe on large stages, becoming a sought-after known in the US, UK, and Japan. He was gone. Singing exclusively for Andrea in their tiny room. The whole time he sang world. The further he went, the stronger an unseen cord pulled. Taut between ends. The artistic dream he could never abandon from, and the home he never wanted to leave. Enrique adored him, extremely different from showbiz women. Loved the fragility he had, calm, human parts. Over time, the world admired Bocelli's size. That part ate slowly. More of his life. No treachery, harsh words, or loss of affection, only truth. Every famous couple understands eventually. Conflict doesn't always kill love. Death occurs from afar. Loses space to close. Concerts increased and trips lengthened. Enrique gradually discovered that her lover resided in two universes. One small family world and one huge one she could never enter. She didn't want to join. Her brilliance, not out of jealousy, but because her nature had never been blinding to her. Andrea Bocelli said he understood something when he returned home from a lengthy tour and noticed his dinner table chair no longer seemed comfortable, seeming natural in the room. No fighting, no crying, just quiet. Undisputed fact. He went too far. No divorce occurred. Explosion with a gentle fade. And that quiet, not insults or bitterness, that helped them realize where they were. Opposite sides of a road they thought would never split. Still, they still loved and respected one another, but not alone. Enough to keep a family united amid a growing life big. Therefore, like every relationship reaches its natural end, they face the hardest but truest choice. That prompted another. This chapter was performed in a small room without stage lighting, thus few people witnessed it. Tuscany, where two youngsters were too little to understand why their parents stopped walking together to rhythm. When their marriage reached a point when silence trumped words and distance ruled intimacy, Andrea Bocelli and Enrica Cinzotti realized love wasn't lasting long enough to house them. However, what differentiated their separation? Belly's separation was one of her saddest yet most lovely moments. Not enduring suffering, but thankfulness for the past. They did not make divorce a battleground. Just acknowledged softly that life had separated them, and the best thing what they could do for each other was let go properly. Break came in 2002, a year when Bocelli's career had already transcended above the quiet world where it began, and between two people who loved each other via simple things had become impassable. Instead of protesting, Enrique calmly agreed. She didn't cling, did not pressure him, or start the desperate last argument that ends marriages. She realized that love might die not because individuals cease loving, but because their lives have changed. She recognized it too. Bocelli, whom she supported since his bar piano days, was entering an unfathomable life. Once divorce was decided, Bocelli showed his pain. He is most appreciative for the how Andrea shielded their family. Even if it fell apart, she retained it, media away from their narrative, guarded him from rumors, and never talked poorly of him. Silence was her final act of love, respecting the father to her children, renouncing bitterness. Andrea stayed in Bocelli's environment after the divorce. She merely moved back, far enough for him to start over, yet close enough to he could see his two sons whenever he wanted. She elected to stay nearby, just minutes from his villa. She took Amos and Matteo to school and maintained their routines. Possible, shielded them from cameras and rumors, and never utilized them. Leverage or public proof. Years later, Matteo stood. The media finally understood him singing with his father on large venues, yet that a mother who avoided the spotlight was behind such talent. So her children may have two fathers, one musical and one not. Live fully and presently. The most striking detail: Belly married Veronica Berti in 2014. Although few knew that Enrique attended the wedding as a family member, not the ex, deeply realized that love may survive without possession. Her silent presence spoke more than words. She embraced the past's closure and respected the new course taken by her former companion. In Bocelli's life, Andrea may not be the largest symphonic movement, but she may be the most dignified, because when people shatter, they typically shrink. She opted to gain size. Only because of this grace could Bella go on without bitterness, forming a new family with love and music. Bloom. Amos and Matteo would not exist without Andrea. No Bocelli years was loved pure and simple, possibly not the man he is today. Loved for more than just his voice, but for the empathy that comes from a private existence influenced by women like her. In the calm space after separation, Belly found himself between a closed past and an unknown future. Another woman entered his life, changing everything. Chapter, stronger, deeper, and faded. Following his discreet divorce from Andrea Bocelli entered a time he called between two notes, a long silence without exciting concerts. Enough to fill the void. He returned to each night in a vast house, without children's laughter, the heated supper left on the table. Not a man who sought fresh immediate love. Instead, Bocelli retreated, leaning in. Music his sole anchor, drinking less, walking more, letting life pass without letting anyone inside her broken private life. But life has wonderful moments, moments when fate changes our route, prepared or not. And the Bocelli trail was named Bertie Veronica. Bocelli later alleged they met at a surprise dinner in 2002. Young Veronica, 18, had intelligent eyes and extraordinary tranquility, and a subtle but powerful aura that made those across from her feel comfortable. The start. Bocelli, in his 40s, didn't want to tumble in. Love. He just wanted a relaxing evening to pass the lengthy hours between point two tours. Veronica talked with a quiet, clear, and mature voice. Than her age, he sensed change. Not a sudden spark or infatuation. Peace made him feel seen. Despite his blindness at all, Veronica did not replace Enrique. She arrived like her own song, a different beat, appropriate for Bocelli's new chapter. If Andrea was simplicity of childhood, Veronica was adult strength. She didn't fear the stage, audiences, or that loving a world-famous man would erase her youth. However, she accepted it. Belly was amazed by its peacefulness, slipping into a relationship fast, silent, and profound. What bonded them, strong from the start, wasn't romance. It was comprehension. Veronica saw Bocelli's loneliness better than anybody else. The nights after concerts, he returned to freezing hotels. He left Italy before dawn. Moments when only great artists knew the silence when the applause ended. She didn't try to change him, steal the spotlight, or concentrate herself. She just stood beside him at the proper distance, time, and way. And her presence alone made Bocelli feel less alone. Later, she became not because she was married to a famous artist. Belly became her manager, understand him better than any coworker. She knew when he wanted silenced, he rested to focus on his voice. Veronica selected his itinerary that protected his projects, voice, and sometimes heart. It's no coincidence that Bocelli's career stabilized and improved after 2000 and two more sentimental. He had a powerful woman behind him, enough to handle the chaos and sing. In 2012, they accepted their daughter Virginia Belli. Not simply a child. She was life's late gift to a man who had passed through too many shadows. According to Bocelli, retaining Virginia in his arms was like rebirth, an uncommon statement that conveyed his true sentiments that the mother who gave birth. The sounds he believed were gone returned to Belly's home through Virginia, gone forever. Small walks across the yard, infantile bursts laughs, and the lovely moments when his daughter sat on his lap while he practiced piano, feeling the notes she sang afterward. The 2014 wedding of Veronica and Belly, warm, private, and so simple that no one would guess it in Tuscany, one of the world's most beloved voices married. What happened when rare photos were released? The unassuming presence of Enrica surprised the public more than luxury, the ceremony. 3 adults prioritized 2 children's happiness, anything else, in a moment that showed affection doesn't hurt. Veronica did not replace Enria. Her voyage continued after Enria could no longer join him. If Enria was Veronica, showed maturity after the opening. Stronger, more grounded and gentler. Gentleness of women. She knew she was standing near a legend, but wanted to keep it human. Veronica helped Bocelli regain the glitter of life that stage attempted swallowing. Balance between art, family, light a shadow between past and future. Love opened the road to next chapter of his story. Chapter 3. 3 children, 3 pathways and 3 very different light hues. If Andrea Bocelli's life is about seeking light in darkness, his 3 children are the gentlest, quietest, and most enduring lights. Reflecting back on him, he had to learn to see with his heart, not his eyes. From Amos, the family's calm scientist, to Matteo, the artist born from music, to Virginia, the late-blooming, brilliant rose. The Belly's children reflect his growth, loss, and existence. Rebirth. Born in 1995, Amos doesn't desire attention. He is the one Bocelli calls the family's quietest mind. From childhood, Amos selected playing the piano like a long-standing friend, not singing. Like his father, his hands are long, gentle, and sensitive to emotion. When he touches the keys, it sounds. But what distinguishes Amos is he combines science with his music. Amos is in labs while Matteo and Virginia appear on camera, pursuing aeronautical engineering, which seems unrelated to an artistic family, but suits his meticulousness, thoughtfulness perfectly. He graduated in engineering, Pisa University, working with ESA, contributed various high-tech research initiatives. But anytime his father needs him, like at San Remo, when he sat beside the piano, Amos constantly returns. Bocelli plays the keys and keeps time for his biggest inspiration. Inspiration. Not garish. Amos is family's silent backbone, who brings intellect to ease his tremendously sensitive surroundings. Father, younger siblings. Matteo is absolutely different. If Amos born with engineer hands, Matteo possesses the lungs and spirit of a lucky artist. As a child, he enjoyed singing but avoided it. He sang in front of his father because that mountain was too high. However, destiny found him naturally. Meeting with producer David Foster, who influenced Bocelli's career. Foster looked at Matteo and said, "You have a voice the world needs to hear." Matteo stopped that onto his possibly destined path. The world found Matteo in 2018. Father and son performed Fallon on Me, a musical tune, intergenerational discourse. Tuscan-like Bocelli's voice thick, huge fog. Matteo's voice was Italian morning sunbright. The harmony made millions cry worldwide. They saw in it not just the music that every parent and son wants, a naturally occurring link understanding between opposing souls. When Matteo released his debut album in 2023 with Chasing Stars penned for him by Ed Sheeran, Matteo became more than Bocelli's son. He entered the world on his own. Modern, handsome, youthful artist with a fresh style spirit who is deeply dedicated to his father's legacy. For Belly, Matteo feels proud, reminding him music can continue. When he may lose his voice. Next came Virginia. The Bocelli said the youngest made him feel born again. Virginia is more than a daughter. She was life's gift after he had suffered enough to realize a miracle when seen. Her first public performance was at age 8. Performing Hallelujah with her father live-streamed worldwide. Nobody expected a gentle girl to she has a proud, clear, sweet, confident voice like she lived on stage her whole life. Virginia is rhythmic beyond music. Gymnastics medalist, runway model, and unpredictable child audiences with her versatility. She radiates family warmth, the one who brings Bocelli back to basics. Dinners with family, horseback rides, peaceful Sunday morning piano duos. When Virginia subbed in for Belly in 2023 when health difficulties delayed his trip, she practiced with him, sometimes touching his shoulder to remark, "You must always be strong." Amos, Matteo, and Virginia take 3 routes. One truth unites them. They don't just expand, renew, and transform Bocelli's legacy into the family story rather than a particular artist. Amos brings intellect. Matteo brings creativity, and Virginia brings new purity. Generation create the most exquisite harmony, according to Bocelli, my life music. Because his career put him on the world stage, his 3 children brought him back to life, where he is a father, not an icon or century tenor, sitting at the piano listening to his kids laugh as Shadow's life becomes light. Andrea Bocelli expired at 66, that artist seeking success, nor a man escaping his childhood. He became a global icon that reached every musical peak. But when the world believed he was content and impenetrable, quiet waves rose beneath the surface. These were quieter storms and obstacles, no longer sharpie out as hardships, but the concluding challenges of a brilliant existence darkness. That moment Bocelli described accurately happened, and it's how artists rise after miscommunication that defines them, not their voice. In 2020, Italy was the epicenter of the global epidemic of Europe. Bocelli, who had devoted his life relieving suffering, music, was suddenly buffeted by public opinion. One heartbroken Italian Senate speech on citizens locked in their houses for years so lengthy was clipped, distorted, taken out of context, and circulated faster than he could not imagine. The guy long called Italy's pride left within hours that became a symbol of defiance and carelessness. People forgot that he had done it. Even though the headlines screaming his name were false, acquired the virus and recovered quietly, not realizing he was concerned about youngsters without playgrounds, seniors unable to see family, houses drowning. Extreme anxiety and deprivation made crying louder than disease. He just said what any humane artist says: do not let fear separate us. But media, as usual, ignored the word's meaning. Only their slogan might make news. Bocelli, a nice man who avoided conflict his entire career, having to do something he never thought he would, apologized to millions. He understood, not because he was wronged. In a time of global upheaval, one misinterpreted word can harm already breaking hearts. He blamed himself to avoid harming others. Perhaps it was the weightiest time of his life, even heavier than his sad past or pressure-filled youth that once admitted during performances, "I was sometimes stage frightened." But a few months later, he would humble the world in the most lovely way. On April 12, 2020, Belly stood in Milan Cathedral, which holds 40,000 persons, void. Without orchestra, audience, or applause, merely a blind man before a Christ statue with sunlight streaming through stained glass mist, gracefully raising his voice. Live, 180 million watched, millions cried, and everyone understood. Bocelli was not anti-suffering. He sang to restore humanity. Its performance restored more than his dignity. It gave millions in cramped apartments, drowning in terror, hope. Constant news overload. The cathedral was deserted as his voice swelled. Even his detractors stopped criticizing him after realizing some voices should not cause controversy. Their purpose is hope. But not only the public challenged Bocelli. At 66, he could no longer disregard his body's signals. Late 2023, just hours before his Boston gig, he had to cancel due to a lack of material. Voice. Bocelli sat beside the piano in Philadelphia and let Virginia and the musicians to sing in his place, an image that made audience tenderness, not disappointment. He later acknowledged to feeling health issues. Doctors cautioned him that singing in that situation could cause him to lose his voice forever. An average performance would a career risk. Belly felt cut off from the civilization that provided her his life purpose. However, he did not whine, blame age, or hate in the situation. He said one sentence that changed everything. Quiet down. As an athlete keeps his legs, I must preserve my voice. He realized he was no longer sprinting fast at 66. He learned that to run slowly to go further. He practiced not maintaining each morning. Uphold a pledge to himself, not his music standing. He may still given one day to sing. He would sing as a final thank you to life. As he walked slower, the children, Amos, Mateo, and Virginia, came forward quicker and brighter, preparing to hand over his 40-year torch. For Bocelli, these crucial years were not a decline. This was his chance to observe his legacy flourish while he lived. The moment also required him to face the question all great artists faces near the end. If I can't anymore sing, what's left? Bocelli answered illogically. He lived by riding horses through Tuscan vineyards in the mornings and eating simple dinners with Veronica and Virginia, listening to Mateo sing backstage quietly, smiling for long, wordless minutes beside Amos at the piano. At 66, after learning that light comes from within, Bocelli no longer feared darkness from how someone handles their final chapters. So in that calmly, in a little trembling voice, Bocelli became more gorgeous than ever, not as a stage legend, but as a human learning to drop heavy things. Keep what's important and sing thankful like only a heart that has endured darkness. People remember Andrea Bocelli's life. They remember the brilliant phases and unending standing ovations or generation-defining love tunes. His true legacy is not record sales or international fame. Awards. He taught about light through darkness. Because if while some artists inspire admiration via talent, Bocelli inspires faith, kindness, patience, and bravery. Quiet traits that reflect furthest in life. For over 30 years, the blind guy from Tuscany did what no one thought possible. Making opera accessible without compromising its purity, transformed classical music into an emotional language. Universal that all ages, incomes, and backgrounds can grasp it. And most crucially, illustrating that art is for those who boost each other up, not the perfect. Yet, his biggest legacy is not albums or shows. It is those that follow him. Amos' calm intelligence and generosity learned from his father opened science while preserving he carries melody in his soul. Mateo spoke confidently. His identification proves that legends don't stop people. A launchpad. A 12-year-old girl named Virginia sung Hallelujah. Near her father, exhibits that light endures, but something that can be passed down. Each child is the latest chapter in Bocelli's lifelong book, proving that music is never a lone path, but a thread that links fate-paired hearts. Beyond his family, millions have cried worldwide. His voice healed and restored hope. For them, Bocelli is more than a singer. He is a sound storyteller who reminds us that life is still good. Switches off all lights. You can still find the way. Cannot see the faces of his audience, but they see themselves in him. Voice. Only artists born from anguish can give that. Even now, Bocelli stands despite a small voice soreness from aging. Poised like a timekeeper on stage, he sings to thank, not to impress. A life that took his sight, but gave him a world to love. His work has become more than music because of that thankfulness, a reminder that humans are remarkable. Many things can be lost, but not life. From Andrea Bocelli's story shows that light is not visual. It comes from choice. Ascend after darkness. Finally, as his voice stops, The light comes on that he leaves behind will live in everyone's hearts, not on staged, and nobody has ever heard him. Please tell me when listen to Andrea Bocelli. What's your light? Share your feelings below. Be sure to thank the man who made darkness one of the world's finest, most lovely gifts. Please subscribe to our channel to see more emotional stories about your favorite legends.